football teams, and an NFL hockey team. How much better can you get than that? That's great. And then finally, we have world-class museums, theaters, symphonies, performing arts venues, and not to shortchange my friends in St. Louis, but in Kansas City, the Kaufman Center for Performing Arts is probably the finest performing arts center in the entire world. So we're very, very happy of all these things that are recreation related. Go to the next slide, please. Sorry to throw you off. Now land use. We are going through the Department of Defense OEA JLUS, or Joint Land Use Study currently, which is a required item for installations like Fort Leonard Wood. That study is not published yet, but there are some preliminary findings. I can't officially quote all those, but I'll tell you what my information is. There are 51 miles of the boundary of Fort Leonard Wood, 43.9% of which borders the National Forest Land, Mark Twain National Forest. I don't know that there's any other Army installation that can say that. 43.9% actually borders other government land. That's pretty good. There are no encroachment issues, as you might imagine. We do not have encroachment issues at Fort Leonard Wood. We have agreements and processes in place that limit future issues that relate to encroachment. And more importantly than all of this is Fort Leonard Wood and its communities are good neighbors. They get along. Doesn't matter what the law says, doesn't matter what the encroachment rules are, they're good neighbors, and that's the most important point that I can leave you with. Go to the next one. Transportation infrastructure is awfully important, particularly air. And we have here at Fort Leonard Wood a joint use airport on Fort Leonard Wood. It's called Forney Field. And also we're close to St. Louis and Springfield airports. They both can get you wherever you want to go, and certainly there is scheduled service from Fort Leonard Wood. That commuter service is long-standing, and it is active, and it works. We also have just been notified that the Department of Transportation is making $6 million available for taxiway improvements on Fort Leonard Wood at Forney Field. We hope that that can actually occur in the future, but air transportation is important. Go to the next slide, please. Other transportation infrastructure like highways and other things important as well. And let me just mention a couple of these. I mentioned I-44 outside a few moments ago. There's also a railhead that happens to come out of the communities and onto Fort Leonard Wood. That railhead is important for many reasons. St. Louis has a port and barge capability that's unparalleled. It's one of the largest in the United States. In fact, one of the largest inland ports in the world is 2 hours up the road in St. Louis. We have full bus and shuttle service schedule. And by the way, part of infrastructure is also access to the rest of the world through electronics. So we have fiber optic network in spades here, and we also have 4G LTE phone service in place, which not every place does, even in some big cities at this point. One of the deficits we've had in the past is north-south travel by road has been a little difficult. I'm happy to note that the Missouri Department of Transportation has scheduled new construction at some point in the future on the U.S. Highway 63 corridor, and you see that represented on the map and where Fort Leonard Wood is. And finally, even though in past decades Missouri roads and bridges were not as good as some others, you may remember from being here many years ago, according to a recent report, we were number 8 in the country in excellent roadways. That's something to be very, very proud of, and I wanted to make sure that I pointed that out. Go to the next slide, please. Community support for Fort Leonard Wood's mission. We've been careful here this evening and will not go into commenting on how the Army structures its units. We won't do that. We'll leave that to others who know more and frankly can make better points than we. But one of the things that we can talk about is the community is supporting Fort Leonard Wood's mission of training and mission of capability development, and we'll continue to do so. I told you there are no encroachment issues and there's room to grow. That's definitely important for training. The community support for off-post motor transport driver training, as far as we know, is the only one in the country. Frankly, when you see a large vehicle rolling down the highway with a motor transport driver trainee in it, that's nothing out of the ordinary here. That just happens. We have unique water-based training at Lake of the Ozarks Recreational Area, or LoRa. If you don't know where that place is, most folks in the room do, it's a tremendous asset, particularly for our engineers, our sappers in particular, who use that location for training purposes. We have a large controlled airspace for air operations. 2 large ones, 2 of the largest in the country, are in this region, which, by the way, also support Cannon Range, which is on the south part of Fort Leonard Wood, which is owned by the Missouri National Guard. and used for various training and operational preparedness kinds of activities. Wonderful support from the community and connectivity of what's going on in Fort Leonard Wood. And next slide, please. Well, I'm going to sum up. You've been very good to go through this long presentation. I will tell you that for those of us who participated in a committee to try to kind of get all this information down to a kind of a chunk that we could get presented here today, it was really tough because we want to say a lot. There's a lot of data. We couldn't say it all, unfortunately, and we couldn't have everyone speak, and I was appointed to come and deliver what we could put in here. And I want to thank you for that opportunity. It's a great pleasure to get up here to talk about what a wonderful community we have, what wonderful community support we have for Fort Leonard Wood. And Lieutenant Colonel Tilson, we hope you take that home with you. I know other places are passionate about their installation. There are none more passionate and more supportive than Fort Leonard Wood, and we'll back that up. I'm going to conclude and we'll get on with the rest of our program. So Fort Leonard Wood region is a great place for the Army to maintain and expand its presence. And I'll tell you why. We have a low cost of living. We have access to quality health care. We have no known environmental or land encroachment issues. We have good transportation and other infrastructure. We have excellent schools. We have world-class recreational opportunities. We are military-friendly state and local governments abound here. We have exceptionally supportive community partnerships. And then finally, the communities are ready and able to embrace expanded or new training and operational missions. We not only want to keep what we have, we want more because we think we can do it here and we can definitely support. Go to the next slide. I told you about good news and bad news. I'll end on a little bit of questioning here. If the Army chooses the worst option, we'd have a problem with that, of course. But the proposed reductions would have a severe socioeconomic impact on regional communities, businesses, and supporting school districts. I showed you the data. It would devastate Pulaski County's economy. There's no doubt about that. It would seriously impact the quality of life for remaining soldiers and their families. There would be less access to the good things here because it's smaller. The Army would miss an opportunity to leverage Fort Leonard Wood's and the regional community's capacity to support growth. We have a lot of capacity here. And then finally, and probably most importantly, the Army would miss a key point, which is it would undervalue Fort Leonard Wood's capacity and value to the Army and DOD. We don't say that about ourselves a whole lot, but we really believe it, and we wanted to make sure we end on that note. If the Army makes the wrong choice, it would undervalue Fort Leonard Wood's capacity and the value to the Army and DOD. I want to thank you for the opportunity to go through these slides, and hopefully they have been ones that mean something to you, and we hope that you will take this back to Army G3 and the headquarters in Washington as you have to make these tremendously difficult choices. At this time, I'd like to turn the floor over to Dr. Judy Blackburn, Superintendent of the R6 School District, who will provide some comments on behalf of regional school districts, and also I'm not sure all the comments, but she will certainly make those comments. Dr. Blackburn.
Thank you. Would you please join me in giving Joe Driscoll a round of applause for the great job he just did representing our communities. Thank you. That was a huge amount of information to put together, and you did it very, very well. I will be brief. Brigadier General Inch. There you are, sir. On behalf of the Waynesville R6 School District and 13 other area school districts, I'd like to say how much we appreciate this opportunity to learn more about the Army's plans and to show our support for Fort Leonard Wood. At this time, I'd like to ask any board members, former or current staff members, and students of the Waynesville R6 School District to stand. Would you please stand? Thank you so much for being here. Colleagues from area districts are also here this evening and include Dr. Dwayne Whithelm from Lebanon, Dr. Aaron Zales from Rolla, Ms. Donna Burrow from Dixon, Mr. Randy Caffey from Lakeway, Ron Hendricks from Crocker, Doug Jacobson from Swedberg, Mr. Joe Ridgway from Richland, Sherry Haven from Edgar Springs, Mr. Ben Yogum from Plato, and Mr. Justin Copley from Success, and Dr. John Hood from Licking. And so we want to thank you and your school districts for being present as well. Would you please stand? They've all provided me a great amount of information, which Mr. Driscoll partially shared with you. Mr. Driscoll, I'm sure you'll share the rest of the information provided after we conclude this evening. 14 of the 14 school districts in this region are all fully accredited, and 13 of them are credited with distinction by the state of Missouri. And so we are all good school districts. Our state has rigorous academic standards that ensure our students compete very well across the nation, and we embrace that rigor. As you just saw, the Waynesville-St School District educates the majority of Fort Leonard Wood's pre-K through 12th grade military dependents. The information just reviewed, including the slide illustrating our ranking of second highest in reported ACT scores and third highest in reported graduation rates among 17 school districts serving comparison Army posts, certainly validates our claim to being a top-notch school district. I'd like to emphasize 3 points. First, the loss of 3,700 school-age military dependents will be devastating to our school districts, and the committed, high-quality teachers and staff members who care deeply about making a positive difference in the lives of our students. Second, great education is integral to the quality of life, and we know that this is a very important Army value. And finally, the Waynesville-St School District is well known for being an award-winning district, and we have excellent facilities with ample room for additional students. We can grow, and we want to grow. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Blackburn. Wonderful message. Next, my task is to, a pleasant task, I might add, is to recognize a lot of folks in this room who really do live the excellent partnerships between local governments in Fort Leonard Wood and our region. They truly work to make the quality of life and the quality of government the best possible for soldiers and families in the region. And I'd like all of the mayors, county commissioners, city councilmen, and other local elected officials from our four-county region, and many of them are up here in front, to stand up, and let's give them a big round of applause. That's the most I've seen since a county convention in Jefferson City. You all have done a really nice job. And finally, speaking of Jefferson City, I'd like to introduce Missouri State Representative Steve Lynch from District 122 here in Pulaski County, who's going to provide some comments on behalf of the Missouri State General Assembly, where he serves, and he will end up with a very, very good message. And then Colonel Riley, we'll turn the floor back over to you for public comment, and it's your meeting, sir.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's a great day to be an American. It's a great day to be here in Missouri. The Missouri House is in session right now, and so many of those that would have loved to come were unable to come. But I did bring 3 leading state representatives with me. And so I'm going to have them stand as I announce their names. I have State Representative Sandy Crawford from the 129th District. State Representative Diane Franklin from the 123rd District. And State Representative Keith Frederick from the 121st District. I appreciate them asking me to come with me to be with you tonight, and I had many others, if we had not been in session, that would be here. I can tell you that Missouri stands for the Army. That recently I proposed a resolution in support of Fort Leonard Wood and the Army here. And through the help of our leadership, it moved through the House in lightning speed compared to the Capitol speed that things normally do. We sent those out to everybody because we're proud of having one of the premier military bases in the country right here. I can tell you that I serve on the Veterans Committee, and so I see a lot of the bills that were mentioned. There's never any opposition to any of the things that we want to do for our veterans or for our military members. And in fact, I have seen our chairman a few times see someone that he didn't know and just sent the word out, you better not be standing against anything we do. Missouri stands for Fort Leonard Wood. I am proud. I am proud to be part of a legislature that is so proud of everything that the finest of our young men and women do. But let me tell you also, Colonel, that I've been around here a long time. I grew up here. I was born in the Waynesville Hospital, which isn't even around anymore, or actually something else. I went to the Waynesville school system and graduated to Waynesville Tiger. I had a business here for 35 and a half years. I know something about this area. You have heard us and seen the story of Fort Leonard Wood and the communities tonight. But maybe unbeknownst to some of you, because nobody knew what I was going to say, they saved the best for last. And it's not me. It's the reason the Army should stay active and involved here. And that is the people. You see, we're in the Ozarks here, ma'am. And when we drove down today, some of the representatives commented how beautiful it is. And I hope you got to see some of it. And we crossed several rivers on the way here, and they're flowing pretty good right now. And they're all over Missouri. And what happens with rivers is they overflow into the fields that are around them. And there, they make rich deposits. And when that water recedes, those fields right there become some of the most fertile, rich fields that there are anywhere. But also when that water recedes, it also takes something from the land that's there and flows down the river to the next field that it overflows in and deposits some of that field into the other field. Colonel, the Army is our river. And it has been flowing here for many, many years. As the Army has seen fit to overflow into this area, to bring young men and women, to bring their families to be a part of our communities. And we that have lived here all of our lives have seen these professional people come among us. We have seen the commitment of our military. We have seen your sacrifice. We have come to admire you, to look up to you. And tonight I stand here telling you that because the Army came here, I'll tell you this, I'm a better man because of it. Our communities are better communities because we have rubbed shoulders with America's finest. We need you. We need the rich deposits that you are making into our lives. We need the investment that you're not making just in our area through economics, but the investments that you are making in people that are here. You have truly, truly made us better. But just like that river, as the Army takes you away and you flow on down through your career, as surely as I know that you have affected my life and made me better, I know that we have done the same for you. I know that you have picked up things here from us that will stay with you, that have made you better people. We talk about quality of life. And I want to tell you, this is a great place to live, to work, to raise a family, to educate your kids. You can't hardly find a place better than that. But there's even something greater, and that is the quality of person. And we believe that when the Army sends their service members and their families here, that they leave better than when they came. And the reason for that is because we're small. Some people hold that against us. I think it's our greatest asset. Because when the military families come in here, you become our friends. You become our neighbors. You become our customers. You become our church members. You become those that work with us side by side in organizations and events and causes that take place all around us. We get to know you, and you get to know us. And you get to know something, I think, that comes very clear, no matter if somebody came here kicking and screaming all the way. Reality is what it is. If you'll just get to know us, you'll know that when it comes to our military, you won't find a better people that cares more, that supports more, that loves more than we do. We do all of that because we know. We know because we live right here with you. We understand, and I hear things on TV sometimes, and I think they don't have a clue what they're talking about. They do not understand what our military members and families are going through. But we do, because we're here. We are intertwined with one another. We positively touch each other's lives. We need, as Missourians, we need our military. But I believe the Army needs us. We're better off because you have come. And I believe just as wholeheartedly you're better off when you leave. I'm going to ask General Lynch if you would come up here, sir. We look a little bit different. We're both good looking.
I agree.
But we're dressed different. And he's got on a uniform. And I'm all gussied up. In some places, and I understand in some installations, ma'am, it is the military and it is the civilians. And I tell you, it is not them and it is not us. It is us. So let me just close with a line from a movie. I choose us. And ma'am, we hope the Army chooses us too. Thank you and God bless you.
Our time's up, right? You have no idea how hard it was to keep from putting bunny ears behind Steve's head during that segment, but I realized we were on camera. Thank you for those words. Because this has run long, for public input, if you would, will not turn out the lights till you've had a chance to write down your comments. I assure you, whatever you write down, please be nice, whatever you write down will be part of the report. Every piece, every document, every speech, ma'am, that was wonderful. Every aspect of this presentation will be part of the report that we send back to Army, to include anything that you write before you depart out. Where did the papers are? After done, okay. Let me conclude by saying both in our presentation, in Representative Hartzler's presentation, there was that statistic that 6 out of every 10 veterans that retire here choose to stay. If you want to see evidence of it, could I have every veteran just stand? Thank you. There really is something very special about the relationship that Mr. Lynch described. Recently, I received orders for my next assignment. I'll be going back to Afghanistan. And so I won't be retiring now, unless I've messed up tonight. And then I'll be sticking around. No, but the aspect of the intensity of the experience of personal relationships. I will not go obviously into detail of what my personal walk has been this last 2 years. Many of you know that. But it has been